Force on Force features the largest and strongest outdoor military organization in the country. These are the men and women who make it possible to enjoy the freedom to hunt and fish. It is with great pride that we bring you Force on Force podcast, coming to you from the Force on Force Talk.
Hey, welcome to the Force on Force podcast. This is your host, Shawn Dalrymple. We're here in the Force on Force Talk. Hey, all our TV shows starting to talk, and we're doing a podcast in the Tactical Operations Center. A lot of fun. We're having doing it this year, bringing a lot of cool stories. Last week, made one of my favorite, talking about Roy Lane and the awesome deal he got to do last part of his military career, and going to the Battle of Bighorn battle site, and being the first active duty soldier in over 100 years to ride that. This week, even more special, we kind of teased out a little bit. We're at the College National Championship with Army West Point. We always do that every year. And so we thought it'd be kind of cool to bring these guys on the podcast and kind of interview them and ask them some questions. And we're going to bring both teams on here and let them talk and talk about some things. So I got the first two cadets. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience. And so we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Luke Johnston. I'm a junior at the United States Military Academy, from a small town in Louisiana. It's been a great week so far. Probably get rained on tomorrow. Hopefully the fish bite. It's been a tough week, but we're going to stick to our gut.
Charlie Latimer. I'm also a junior at United States Military Academy. I'm from Tallahassee, Florida. Same thing here. Hopefully it's a good day tomorrow. Fish are biting. Might get a little wet, but hopefully the fish are biting while we're getting it.
So Luke and Charlie, you guys, it's such an honor to kind of do this with you guys. I think what's really cool, and to put it into perspective for the listeners, Luke, your grandparents came to see you here this week, and I think that kind of leads into this. It kind of asks you guys what I really like is cool about this format, that we kind of get to share some of the background stories of military and things that I don't always get to share on a TV show in the long format, because you only have 22 minutes, but they were so happy to get to see you. Unlike a normal college student, what is kind of like that commitment when you decide? What kind of led you to that commitment, and what that entails, and why? Because you see that in your grandparents' face to see you here this week, because they don't get to see you very much.
Yeah. So when you commit to at least to the academy, your whole lifestyle is structured from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. And that's 5 days a week to 7 days a week, depending on the weeks. It's usually starting around like 6 o'clock, ends around 11:30, midnight every night. And it's just a cycle. You're committing a lot of time, and you're going to lose a lot of family time. So it's really important when you do get to see them that you enjoy it and make the most of it. But I don't know, leading into the military, my dad had a big influence on me. He was a Marine. He was an infantryman and anti-tank gunner. So he kind of taught me all about the structured lifestyle, just kept me away from like anything military. He just ingrained into me just like having a structure and a routine and attention to detail and all that stuff growing up. And I don't know, West Point just kind of stuck out amongst other universities that I could have gone to, and that's the one I ended up choosing.
So Charlie, what about you?
As for going to the academy, it was a buddy of mine, my neighbor, and my mom had originally mentioned it to me, and I showed a little bit of interest. I didn't really completely grasp what was going on. And then my buddy ended up going. I talked to him a good amount, and he convinced me to apply, and I ended up getting in. Here I am now. Like Luke said, it's a grind. You're going from the time you wake up early in the morning till late, and it makes those times when you see your family and friends a lot more special. When you go back home, it's a lot more meaningful. So it's always good to see them.
A lot of your summers are taken up. I don't think people kind of understand that. You're like a lot of Division I athletes. You don't get a summertime when it comes to that. I mean, that's when a lot of training gets done that you got to get done, whether it's, air assault school, airborne school, the required training you guys got to do at West Point. And I think that takes that family time when a lot of college students are going home and, not doing things during the summertime or doing summer jobs and going back home, and you guys are not doing that. I mean, that really puts it into perspective for a commitment. And you make that at such an early, young age that it's really, a lot of times I don't think people really grasp how young. How old were you when you made that decision?
I was 18, sir.
So 18, and so you're making that decision at 18 that you're about to give up your next 4 years of freedom to go do things that, a lot of, you're the very small percentage of what we do, but that's kind of cool. And so you're here, you're doing the fishing. You guys are fishing. You guys are actually on a brand new FXR Skeeter this week out here fishing. How's that been?
It's been wonderful. We couldn't thank Army Bass Anglers and then Colonel D enough for giving us the opportunity to come out here and fish on a brand new Skeeter like that, and with all decked out electronics, decked out trolling motor, and of course the Yamaha Show 250 on the bag. Pushes are great. So
I mean, well, part of it we do this is because I think it's we understand kind of the training requirements you guys have on that, and that's the reason we do it. And we were talking about that a couple of podcasts. I'll enjoy just that perspective to be able to see you guys get to experience something new, because part of it is a training event for you guys when you come down there, because you're putting you outside your comfort zone and get to do something that everything you guys do, you come down here, it really applies back to military, to include like being on this podcast right now, because you're being interviewed and you kind of know what you can and can't say, and you kind of get to, you're that way your whole military career. It's better to get opportunities to do it now before you get out there to be a lieutenant to kind of do it. So that's what's kind of cool about this event. I tell people all the time, whether it's a tank, a gun truck, a helicopter, a bass boat, load plans are still load plans. You still have to figure out, how you're gonna do them. SP time, still SP time. All those things, all those MDMP things, all the, troop leading procedure, still going to all those kind of things you do it. And so it's taking something that you enjoy for fun and putting into a practical application. You'll probably remember a lot more than you actually will in a classroom environment, right? So, but I think what's kind of neat, they're getting ready for the tournament in the morning, and most college guys are sitting around getting ready, talking about what they're going to do. And you're listening to these guys over here on the couch. And I just put my perspective into listening to what's going on, because you're sitting there and you guys are talking about CTLT and getting your orders to go do summer training, and not know everybody else. I can guarantee all the other anglers, they're getting ready for that's not their concern tonight, but that is like, that's part of what is on you guys' mind, which puts it into the bigger perspective of the thought process that you guys are already doing at such a early age. I tell people all the time, people ask me about it, and I'm like, I was 23 years old the first time I got shot at, and people's eyes get wide like this. But, that's the kind of, you grow up really, really fast. And so you guys, that maturity to be like, yeah, I got a tournament in the morning, but I still got a job to do when I get back to West Point. I still got to go do summer training. I'm still worried about that. I'm still worried about all those things that go along with it. So I think that's kind of a cool perspective to talk about it from that. I don't think you guys even realize you guys are, that's part of your focus. Like, I know, I can tell you, trust me, every other angler, that would not be their perspective for tonight. So it's just a cool deal from that perspective to listen to you guys kind of go through that. I mean, I think, this is a cool lake, cool fishery. It's a big fishery, it can be kind of overwhelming, but as I taught you guys also, a lot of your skills that you guys learn kind of play into this lake. And so kind of share like how you can take some of that training you've had and kind of apply to the offshore ledge fishing here on Pickwick.
Yeah, so I mean, just reading a map and trying to visualize it from the contour lines, from what you see on the graphs to like what's actually down there, you can just, I guess that gives us somewhat of an advantage. But I mean, these other anglers have been doing this all year, so they kind of have an understanding of it too. But we can see it in real life, like what it's actually going to look like above ground. So we just kind of apply it to the underground.
Right. And that's kind of important. I know, that's kind of, most people don't know how to read maps. And so when they're looking at contour lines, they don't understand. So we were talking, Colonel Messa and I were talking to another angler from another school day, and this is his first trip down here. And he was talking about how overwhelmed he is. And because of the ledge fishing, and but you get that a lot, not just normal every other town fisherman. They always talk about what ledge is, but I think that ability to read maps kind of accelerates the learning process. I can talk to you guys in that perspective of the contour lines and things like that better than I can anybody else. And so that goes back to kind of your military training to be like, hey, if you can visualize what you see in a map, you can take what you learn on a graph, because it's back to everything that you're kind of doing down here is teaching you. I just talk about looking at it, depth finder is no different than looking at an ISR. You're getting ready to the intelligence, you're getting ready to plan a mission. You're just using that as your tool out there. And it's a whole asset from it. So that's pretty good. I know, but it's been a lot of fun, isn't it, Charlie?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
I know. Anything significant you'd like to share about your trip down here? Any fun filled things? Any things that have really you've been surprised by?
I mean, that brand new Skeeter has been awesome. It's been sliding across the water like a dream. Electronics on it are amazing. The forward facing, it's been a lot of fun. Definitely a different change of pace in terms of the type of fishing we're doing compared to New York or even back home in Florida. But it's been a lot of fun. Big learning experience. The ledge fishing here, and just using the maps to do it. It's been a time.
Yeah, I know. I think that's fun. I got to go to New York. I told them that I kind of challenged them when they got here. I said I went to their home lake last year and kind of wrecked them up there at Lake George. So they had their white Kirk cadet coming down here, and it is. But I mean, a lot of that goes to a lot of, and that's really tells a story of the military. Sergeant Major Tiger loaning his boat out, and another retired lieutenant colonel buddy of mine that I call on and just said, hey, this is what we kind of need right now. And they didn't even blink twice. And I don't know many other college anglers that they would do that for, It's like, so that really, talks about what you guys do. So I know that you guys are going to continue to get ready. We're going to get the other guys on here and kind of talk about their experience. I know you guys are focused on what you got to do for summer, but you got to do a little prep work for the tournament for tomorrow, don't you?
Yes, sir.
So, all right, we'll get the other guys on here and get them to come on. It's appreciate you guys coming down. It's going to be a lot of fun. We look forward to seeing how you guys do on this event. Cool.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we got the other two anglers from West Point. So go ahead and introduce yourself here.
I'm Caleb Quee from Port Lavaca, Texas, and I'm third year at West Point.
I'm Daniel Newsom from Tarrytown, New York, and I'm a sophomore at West Point.
So this is the quiet guys from the group right now.
Sir.
So you're gonna get them to talk, and this is gonna be a lot of fun. But I will tell you, they've been absorbing things like a sponge here this week. It's been a lot of fun, and it's just a cool deal to watch you guys kind of see the kind of grasping the knowledge and kind of going with that. So really, what we talked to first, your teammates was about really what the story that I always find interesting is what kind of led you to where you're at and how you got to West Point, because I think that's what, listeners want to, that's the part that we do a thing on RE Bass Anglers, Buck Hunters, called the Military Moment. It's really telling that story that only we can kind of tell, that nobody can tell. And so you guys have such a unique story of how you ended up at West Point and making that decision at such an early. So we'll start with you, Caleb, and kind of tell how did you get there and what kind of led you to that, and then we'll talk a little bit about the tournament a little bit after that. So
Sir, it's a funny story. I actually found out about West Point like pretty late, or found out I wanted to go there pretty late, probably like senior year, like Christmas. Never really thought about a military career. I was always going to play like basketball, Division III level, and like Indiana. But for me, it was my dad. My dad led me to it. And honestly, I'm just like, a lot of it is just inspiration. Like first generation, my mom's from Thailand, my dad's from Burma. And my dad told me when I was like a sophomore, he was like mentioning West Point. He's like, hey, you should, like my sister got like application form from it. And then he talked about me and he's like, yeah, Caleb, you're not going there because you can't get in. Come senior year, well, it was a long process, but I got in. But a lot of it is like, as cheesy as it sounds, it's like I'm inspired to serve, just because my family, where I came from, first generation, my parents love this place. My family does. And yeah, my dad, he saw many benefits in the military, but he was actually going to enlist when he was in like high school, but he couldn't get in, like surprisingly, you know, because there's a high demand for enlistees, but he couldn't get in because he didn't know English. So it was pretty funny. But yeah, that's my story. It's mainly just there's a lot of opportunities at West Point, a lot of connections you can make, and like the Army is like one big family. So that's very nice.
So you are the American dream.
Oh yes, sir.
So when you really bring it down, that's what's kind of cool. I love telling, you know, we talk a lot about fishing and hunting, but I really love telling like cool stories that, you know, what it has to do with military service and kind of how you get to point A to point B. And I mean, what was really cool, the division sergeant major, the 82nd right now, he was the sergeant major where I was at when I retired. And, his grandfather was a political prisoner, Del Castro, and came over in Iraq. And so this first time I ever heard this, we were in a quarterly training brief, and he's talking about telling soldiers, you know, your story and getting to know them on a personal level. He said you can't be a leader if you don't tell them. You got to get them to tell your story, them their story, and you tell them their. And he's telling his story, and I'm like, wow. I mean, you're just like to hear his story about, you know, how that whole, because you read sometimes but to kind of connect the dots sometimes is really, really cool. And so to hear some of that stuff, I think is really, really, really neat deal to kind of deal. So what's your story there?
I always wanted to serve in the military, but originally the plan was to like enlist in the Marine Corps. But somehow I got into West Point, and the main reason behind that, I wanted to like jump out of planes. I wanted to meet cool people, and I wanted to travel the world. And in just 2 years at West Point, I've been able to do all of that. So the experiences there are definitely unique, and I've been able to experience things that I would never be able to elsewhere. So
to include going all the way to Florence, Alabama to fish at college.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, that's part of the whole deal. I mean, you get to go do things that I tell people this story. I get asked by a lot of high school anglers, that it comes down to, they always ask me, they're like, hey, how do you get to do what you do in the outdoors? And I go, man, it comes down to, I took a company command in 82nd Airborne Division that totally changed my life. I mean, I always wanted to work in the outdoor industry, but I never knew that was where they was going to lead it. And what that led was to getting to go to grad school and meeting the guy that you guys met tonight, Wade Middleton. That's where this all kind of came from. And I never would have got there if I hadn't taken that command from 82nd. And it's just kind of all the opportunities you kind of get to, you do a lot of sacrifices, because you're talking to, you know, first two teammates of yours that talking about, you know, the commitment that time it takes from school and everything else. Cause I mean, you guys know that how much sacrifice you guys put in, but for the listeners, I mean, we talked about it. I mean, your summers are giving up, you know, you guys don't get to fish as much as all these college anglers down here. That's one of the reasons we commit so much effort to kind of make this as much as an enjoyable event for you guys, kind of reward for all the hard work. And so it's just kind of a lot of time on that perspective. So, but you get to do a lot of cool things in the process too. And so there's a trade-off there. And then at the same time, I always say this: I've got to fish a lot of really cool places and hunt a lot of really cool places because of the places I've been stationed in the military. And so those are experiences that I always enjoy. So, you know, hit kind of the nail on the head. You get to do a lot of cool things and wanted to do that, you know. So it was just a cool thing. So what was your favorite color crayon?
That's a good question. Sorry.
I mean, you said you wanted to go to Marines. Is that what you'd pass the crayon test or something?
No, sir.
So it's a funny story. We're filming the Buck show. One of our guys is a Marine, and one of the Air Force guys, they were competing against them, and he had bought a box of crayons with him. And he told him on camera, he pulled out the box of crayons and said, after I beat you, I don't want you to be sad and hungry. So this way you just be sad on the ride home and hand him a box of crayons. And Randy opens the box of crayons and takes it and bites it off. And I'm like standing right next to him thinking, I don't know how he's not like gagging right now. Like, and he like, of course he's on camera, and he, you know, Marines are not backing down from anything, right? And so the whole time he's shooting his bow, he's he's got this crayon in his mouth, and he said it was the most awful, nastiest, tasty thing he had ever done in his entire life. So it was deal. So, how's the week been for you guys so far down here?
Amazing experience, I would say. Like last 2 days, fishing's been very tough. We didn't catch any bass at all, but today we figured something out, and just even the experience before we started catching fish was just amazing. Getting to try out different technology we'd never used before on the boats, and getting to go to the banquet and see how much dedication and time people put into the sport is just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. Big part of what we do is I don't think people can understand that. Even you don't get the experience of this technology from fishing, you kind of have to, spend a little bit of time with it. And you guys got thrown into the forward-facing sonar like really, really quick, and it's like, you get to kind of use that for the first time. How was it?
I kind of had this is one of the most recent times I've used a boat, but 3 weeks leading up to me and Mr. Messett, people in the bass fishing club, I would take the boat out for the past 3 weeks and just go out on the lake, practice forward facing sonar, down scan, all of that stuff. So I learned so much stuff in those small 3 weeks leading up to this. So yeah, the equipment is just it's just surreal.
So I always tell, I could do a lot of seminars, and I didn't know all this stuff. I didn't grow up being an offshore guy. I had to teach myself, and I decided I was going to do it. So I tell people, I get asked a lot of times doing seminars for Lowrance. I get asked, hey, how can I figure out, or what's a cheat sheet? Everybody wants a quick fix how to do it. And I'm like, look, here's the best way I can tell you. Go take all the rods and reels out of your boat and go spend time in the water, and just don't, because if you don't take all your rods and reels out of the boat, you'll want to fish. And so go spend a day on the water. And that's basically what you're talking about. You were spending a lot of time on the water 3 weeks to try and learn the technology and learn what it is. And that really helps you. And then kind of talk with the other group, that ability to read maps kind of plays a big key into it, because that's a piece that hurts a lot of young anglers, just the inability to read maps. And you guys have that because that's, part of your job. That's what you do. You got to be able to read maps. And so I've always taken for granted being able to read a map, looking at contour lines and things like that. So when I talk to you guys and I talk about underwater points and ledges, or just underwater points and humps and, old creek channels and things like that, that's not hard for you guys to kind of fathom, because you're used to looking at map and terrain features all the time. And that cuts that learning curve down. So then you just got to kind of take the electronics piece and kind of work into it. So it's a whole deal to it. So it's it was funny to see you guys coming off the water today, kind of smiling and having that whole demeanor, because it's kind of seeing it kind of all come together and feeling like you learn something, and then to put it into practice, and that's what that kind of that reward is, that hard work and that plan coming together. So it's kind of a fun deal for you out there. And what are your expectations for tomorrow?
For tomorrow, well, we're gonna hit the spots we're catching fish on today, but we're pretty confident in them. But we'll see what happens. We'll honestly just play by ear, see what happens.
So I gotta ask. I didn't ask the other guys. Is there any internal if anybody does better than the other? Is there what's the bragging?
We could start something.
I'm not trying to kind of stir the pot here anyway. I'm just saying, there's got to be I'm just saying, who is there something that goes with this,
There'll definitely be bragging rights.
I know you're all competitive, but so there's got to be a trophy for winning and amongst you guys and not, other than that.
Shoot, I don't know.
They're thinking about it right now, but now that they got them kind of thinking about it, that's. There's never not a time to have fun. I mean, it's been a great time. I enjoy you guys being down here. I think having you guys an experience, because I just talked to the other group, it's a training environment. And you guys will probably learn more about this than ever. True story. I'll share with you guys. At G3 of the 101st Airborne Division, a good friend of mine, he and I would go fishing every once in a while, and he was a battalion commander, and he had a lieutenant mess up a raid in Afghanistan when he was battalion commander. And he brought that lieutenant in and said, hey, what do you do for fun? He said, I run and work out. He said, no, that's what we do for a job. He's like, what do you do for fun? He said, I fish and hunt. He said, if you'd fish and hunt in your off time, you wouldn't messed up that raid because you'd be able to practice your craft in your off time, see? And so I asked a bunch of people if that conversation really happened in his XO, battalion XO, and he said, yeah, that conversation really happened. And so it was a pretty funny story. But yeah, you get to practice it in an environment to learn some things that, get to take back and kind of work on. Like I said, they're going to stick a microphone in your face tomorrow, and you got to figure out what you're going to say on stage. But that's a training event, because you're going to have, you got to have that microphone in your military career stuck in your face, and you got to figure out what you can and can't say. And that's really important. I don't think, you represent the Army, and you can't do anything that, not bring credit to the Army and do something that's not allowed. And so that in itself is a teaching point to you guys as you go forward in the day. And I think that's important. That's why this whole thing, that's why I kind of commit to it each and every year, because it's a training environment outside the classroom. And I think I got, plus, I mean, it's just cool to watch you guys come down. So, you got the quiet ones and you got the loud ones. So it's going to be fun to see who comes out on top tomorrow. So, it's see the most smack talking. I appreciate you guys being with us. Hey, you guys want to know more about Army bass anglers, buck hunters, duck hunters, hog hunters, or redfish, go to forceonforcetv.com. Hey, appreciate you guys listening this week, and I will see you next time. Whoa.
Thanks for listening to the Force on Force podcast. Join us next time as we dive into more topics from the Force on Force Talk. For more information or to learn how to join the organization, visit our website at forceonforcetv.com.